Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you're using any kind of AI tool at work right now, for drafting emails, summarizing your meetings, you're doing for speed, for
Well,
efficiency.
right, and that's the promise, isn't it? Massive productivity gains.
Exactly. But those gains, well, they're directly tied to an equally massive and, frankly, a rapidly accelerating security crisis.
And that's the paradox we're diving into today. Our sources are all pointing to the same issue: AI permission sprawl. And they're very clear. This isn't some brand new threat.
It's something we've seen before.
It is. It's a familiar problem returning in a new disguise. Think of it like the ghost of shadow IT, just, reborn in an age where the stakes are just orders of magnitude higher.
So when we talk about AI, people usually focus on the cool stuff, the algorithms, the intelligence. But our mission for this deep dive is to look past all that.
Hmm.
We want to pull out the actionable insights you really need. Because the biggest vulnerability isn't some complex model. It's that one simple, casual click by an employee.
Think about it. Every single AI tool wants your data. It needs to connect to your systems to be useful at all.
Of course.
If it's going to summarize your customer support tickets for the last quarter, it needs to see them all. But what else are you giving it access to with that one click?
And most users have no idea what they've actually authorized.
Not really. And the sources confirm that most organizations, well, they just can't easily see the full permission footprint that's spreading across their systems.
Okay, let's unpack this. Maybe we should start with where this all came from. For what, decades, companies have been worried about shadow IT.
Yeah, that's the perfect place to start. That was the era of, an employee signing up for some unapproved cloud storage because the official one was just too slow.
Or using a project management tool IT never heard of just to get files shared quickly.
Exactly. And that's a crucial parallel. Cloud tools made software incredibly easy to adopt long before governance became easy to enforce.
So people just optimize for speed?
They optimized for speed and utility. Security was often an afterthought. If an app saved you time, you used it. And suddenly you had these little pockets of company data scattered all over the place.
So if the old risk was scattered data, what makes this new AI-driven shadow IT so much more dangerous? Why are the stakes, as the sources say, far higher?
Well, traditional shadow IT was a problem of scattered storage. The data was mostly static.
Okay.
You had a database with customer names on some unapproved server. It just sat there, kind of inert. The risk was that someone would find it, or the service would get breached, which was bad for sure.
But it was passive.
It was a fundamentally passive risk. But today's AI tools are not designed to be passive. They're built to be active participants.
Right. They read your email, scan your documents, summarize your meetings.
And increasingly take actions on your behalf. That shift from passive storage to active access, that's the game changer.
This is where it gets really fascinating for me. The sources all hammer at this point. Home AI shadow IT creates scattered access, and access is so much more dangerous than storage.
It's a completely different threat model.
If I have a sensitive file on a random server, that's one point of failure. But if I give an AI tool live, 24/7 read access to my entire email archive, my calendar, all my documents, that's a different world.
It's an exponentially larger surface area for risk. A tool that's authorized to see everything can leak everything instantly. And if that tool gets compromised, the attacker doesn't just get a static database.
They get a live feed, an authorized operator inside your system.
Precisely. The speed and scale of a potential breach are just off the charts compared to the old risks.
And that's before we even get to the tool not just seeing, but acting.
That's the next level of risk. A tool that can act on your behalf is a tool that can make mistakes at scale.
We're not talking about one misplaced file anymore.
No. We're talking about an agent that misunderstands a command and, deletes an entire project's archives. Or starts replying to internal emails with confidential data. The damage scales with the permissions you gave it.
So let's get into the mechanics of this. Why is this sprawl happening? It really feels like user behavior is being, exploited here. Why are people so willing to hand over these digital keys?
It's a mix of really clever user experience design and pure convenience. The sources call it permission sprawl.
Permission sprawl.
Yeah, users grant these really broad permissions because they want the full experience. The tool promises to revolutionize their work, so they'll click whatever button they need to make that happen.
And the pop-ups, the onboarding screens, they make it feel normal.
They do. You just click allow. It's what you do with software. It's frictionless. It promises immediate value, and that's a powerful incentive. If I know clicking Allow Access to Drive means my new AI will automatically find and summarize documents for my next meeting.
You're going to click it. No second thought.
That instant utility just overrides our critical thinking, and it exposes this huge knowledge gap for the average user. They're not a security expert. They probably don't grasp the enormous difference between read access versus write access.
Wait, let's stick with that for a second. Read versus write. How often is that distinction just completely lost on a user who just wants the thing to work?
It's endemic. It happens all the time. Read access seems harmless, right? But it's the pathway for massive data exfiltration. Write access, though, that's where the real catastrophe lies.
How so?
Let's say a tool only needs to save a meeting summary into a specific project folder. That's a very narrow write permission. But the prompt just says, allow write access to drive.
And the user clicks it.
And the user clicks it. Now they've created the potential for a rogue agent or a compromised account to encrypt files, delete data, or overwrite critical information across their entire system.
And this sprawl goes beyond just read, write, write. It's also about the scope of the data, the difference between one mailbox and the entire organization's shared drive.
Absolutely. The permission request often defaults to the broadest possible scope, or it uses really vague language. The user sees access to files and thinks, my files.
But it could mean all files you have access to.
Which, in an enterprise setting, could be massive shared drives, team repositories. The sources point out that often the only option is all or nothing, which forces the user to make a bad security choice to get any functionality at all.
You're a forced weak link in the chain. And this all gets so much worse as we move into what the sources are calling the agentic era.
That agentic trend is the core challenge going forward. The risk just multiplies when AI moves from just assisting you to actively acting for you.
Okay, so assisting is when it drafts an email for me.
Right. You're still the human in the loop. You're the one who hits send. The risk is contained.
But an agentic AI, it hits send on its own.
It can send, schedule, file, delete, or trigger workflows all by itself, based on inputs it decides on, autonomously.
That's a huge shift in control.
Think about the difference. A passive AI helps you write a document. An agentic AI, let's say it's connected to your calendar and your HR systems, might see a meeting canceled and then, without any human confirmation, automatically start an employee offboarding process.
Wow. Revoking access, triggering payroll.
The potential for an immediate, automated, high-consequence failure is just enormous.
And the sources have a really strong take on what this means. They redefine the tool itself.
This brings up the question, what is a connected AI tool, really? And the sources are clear. It is no longer just a productivity tool, it's a delegated operator.
A delegated operator.
You've essentially hired a digital assistant, and you've given it a badge and keys that let it operate unsupervised. And you are trusting its code and the company that wrote it to be perfect all the time.
Which brings us to the organization itself, the governance blind spot. If we've got thousands of these new operators running around, where is IT? Where is security?
For the most part, they're not there yet. The sources point to a massive governance failure just because of the sheer speed of all this. Most organizations do not have a clear inventory of which AI tools are connected to which systems.
They can't see what scopes have been granted or who even approved them.
If you can't even map your perimeter, you have no hope of defending it.
And what makes this so tricky is that the risk is stealthy. We're trained to look for, a brute force attack, a login from a strange IP address.
Right, the obvious red flags.
But permission sprawl is quiet. It just looks like normal login activity. Why? Because the employee did authorize it.
That's what makes it so insidious. It doesn't trip the traditional alarms. It's just authorized access that is way too broad, sitting there dormant until something goes wrong. You only find out you had a massive security hole after the incident has already happened.
And we really have to stress this point from the research. These incidents aren't always malicious hacks. They're described as ordinary outcomes of casual authorization in a complex environment.
They're inevitable mistakes. It's what happens when you combine misunderstanding and misplaced trust with the power of automation.
Let's make that real for everyone listening, because the sources gave some really good, non-exotic examples.
Yeah, these are the scenarios that should be keeping people up at night.
What are they?
Okay, first, a simple boundary failure. A user connects their personal Google account to a new AI tool, but their corporate password is saved in that personal account. Now the tool is mixing domains, and sensitive corporate data is flowing through a channel governed by personal security policies.
An instant compliance violation.
Instantly. Or think about data retention. A tool is used for a project, permissions are granted, and then the project ends. The user completely forgets the connection exists, but the vendor's policy is to retain that data for years.
And now you have a ticking time bomb waiting for an auditor to find it.
Exactly. Then there's the communication mishap. An AI is connected to your meeting transcription service. It's configured to automatically share transcripts for efficiency.
I can see where this is going.
A sensitive conversation happens. Layoffs, unreleased financial data. The AI, our delegated operator, just shares it automatically. It prioritized speed over sensitivity because that's what it was told to do.
And finally, the automated agent failure. This is where write access becomes truly terrifying.
Right. An agent has broad write access to a database of, say, vendor invoices. It misinterprets a tiny formatting error in some new data. And what does it do?
It could delete massive amounts of files.
Or worse, authorize a financial transaction it was never meant to. Simple logic failures that, because of broad permissions, become huge organizational disasters.
Realizing these are inevitable mistakes amplified by machine speed really shifts the conversation from if this happens to when.
Okay, so let's pivot hard to solutions. We've laid out this silent growing risk. What are the actionable takeaways here, starting at the top with leaders and security teams?
For leaders, the sources are very prescriptive. You have to stop treating AI as just a general innovation topic. It must be reframed as an access and identity topic.
Meaning it's an organizational risk decision, not an individual choice.
Exactly. You cannot delegate this decision down to the employee who's just trying to get their work done faster. It needs executive buy-in and a real policy.
And for the security and IT teams on the ground, their first priority has to be visibility. You have to map these integrations. You need automated monitoring to see what's connected to what, with what permissions. And the default policy must be least privilege.
Start small.
Start with the absolute minimum, read only to one folder, and only expand that access when there's a clear business justification, and then you have to review it constantly.
But the sources also warn about making the approval process a nightmare.
Oh, absolutely. If getting approval is harder than just bypassing the system, people will bypass the system every time.
The path of least resistance.
Security teams have to make the approval pathways simple and fast. If an employee can save 5 hours with an AI tool, but the security review takes 3 weeks, we all know what's going to happen.
It's that classic tension between usability and control, just on steroids now.
It is. And the vendors have a huge role to play here, too. They need to design better systems. Permission requests have to be transparent, granular, and easy to understand.
Because that all-or-nothing choice is a broken model.
It's completely broken. The sources call it not just a security problem, but a deep trust problem. It forces your customer to choose between getting value from your product and protecting themselves. That's a terrible choice to force on someone.
So bringing this all back to you, the listener, the person who actually holds the power of that click, what's the key takeaway?
It's a mindset shift, a fundamental one.
We're so used to just clicking allow on our phones for every app.
Yeah.
That muscle memory is dangerous in a corporate environment.
It's incredibly dangerous. We have to stop seeing a connected AI tool as just another app. It's closer to giving a third party a set of keys.
It's an act of delegation.
It is. And if you don't know exactly which doors those keys open, and I mean really know the difference between access to your project folder versus the entire company repository, then you cannot hand them over. You have to be the gatekeeper. And if we pull back to the big picture, the whole story of Shadow IT was about speed outrunning control. AI just makes that gap so much wider, so much more immediate, because the value of the AI itself depends on that broad access.
And that access, if it's not checked, becomes overreach.
Very quickly.
And I think that's the final critical warning from all this research. If organizations don't get in front of this, the next wave of incidents won't start with sophisticated hacking.
No, it won't.
It's going to start with well-meaning people clicking allow and just accidentally stretching the organization's risk surface until it breaks.
It demands a whole new discipline. We have to treat permissions with the same gravity we treat the data itself. Every connected AI service is now part of your security perimeter. It's not some harmless add-on.
So the question for you to think about this week is, what stands out to you about the connections you've already made?
Ask yourself, are the keys I've handed over opening only the doors I intended? Or have I accidentally given someone the run of the entire house?